Hi there, Joga here from Pocket Full of Happiness, and in this video I'm gonna show you how I created these 3 cards using the new Folklore die set. So this is the die set and it has a couple of a few pieces. I'm gonna come back to that in a second. I am creating an A2 size black panel, and I'm die cutting the first one just directly into the panel, but there is also a circle die with the set that you can use to create a dimensional piece, which I'm also going to do on the other cards. Well, this might look a bit overwhelming because there's a lot of tiny pieces. It did take some time, but what I did to make it quicker, this embroidery pattern from Hungary is typically done, so every section or every flower is typically done in 2 colors. So these 2 large flowers, for example, in 2 different reds, a darker and a lighter red. The tulips, for example, in 2 pinks, and there's some other flowers in 2 kinds of purple. And so I could just die cut each piece once from every color, and then I could do 2 of these floral patterns at the same time. You will see in a second what I mean. And this is what I said, that you can die cut this out. You could do it at the same time. I did not, because I wanted to be sure where my center is. And you know, sometimes dies are a bit off center. So I wanted to see my already cut out pattern and line it up to that instead of the edges of the die. So if that makes sense, I hope it does. So the first one I created this way. I used liquid glue, and then I realized it would have been easier to add some double-sided adhesive, which is what I'm gonna do in this case. And I'm also going to create another of that white circle, which I'm going to use double-sided adhesive for, and then that's what I'm going to use with the inlay technique. And the other that I already glued together, I'm just going to use for a white card. So here I started filling up these shapes, just partly, as you can see, because this is what I was talking about, that the other sections I'm going to use for the other card. And here it is. You see, it's just going to be, it's still going to be the same colors, but then different sections will be filled in with the same color. Obviously, you could just fill everything in the same color, and then you have to do just one cut. I think it would still be beautiful. Or you could paint behind it, like you could emboss this pattern first, and then you could paint that, and then add the die cut on top, and then it's still going to be colorful, but it's going to take you a lot less time. Or I think from one color the whole thing is also just like I did white on white, but you could do any other color. It would still look beautiful, but this is the traditional Hungarian color scheme, and I really wanted to create that. I grew up with folk things, and back in the day, well, my grandmother used to do this embroidery, but I really hated it. For me, it was way too colorful back then. I just like the white ones. But as I grew up and as I get older, for the better part of the last 25 years or so, I really found this pattern beautiful, and especially on black. Um, I would totally wear a blouse or something like a shirt with this embroidery, but I didn't really find anything that looks modern. Like the fabric is something nice. But I would totally wear it. I think it's gorgeous. And I was expecting to like the black one because that's my favorite one. But in this case, for some reason, I prefer the white. I think I don't know. Maybe because I prefer that it's not in the panel directly. I don't know. Something I don't like about the black one as much as I expected to do so. And why I was showing you those two blues is because they are two different colors, like different shades of the same color. But when I'm now filling those small flowers, you cannot tell. Like they look pretty much the same color. It's weird. Um, so the yellow ones I actually had to cut twice because I'm filling in all those little small dots with yellow on both cards just to give it a little bit of sun, just a little bit of a happy color. So that I actually had to do twice. But you could also use that yellow panel. It was beautiful. Now for the white on white card, I actually wanted to do a completely white card just with a red sentiment. But, I love colors, so I don't know, I couldn't do it. So I cut some strips of the same color papers that I used on the other cards, and then I'm just trimming off the excess, and then this is it for the panel, and then I'm just going to add that white design on top of it. It did not turn out to be my favorite. I think I really should have just left it white, but you only see this when you already created it. So for my white card, I decided to add some texture. I always prefer if not color, then I need texture. So I couldn't just leave it white. So it's just a simple polka dot pattern, that embossing folder. It actually came with my very first die cutting machine, which was a Cuttlebug, and it's kind of falling apart because I used it so often. For the sentiments, I'm just going to use red. I think that's a really typical color for this embroidery. It's not my favorite color, but for this particular project, I really like it. And lately, I actually have been using red very often. I used to only use it for Christmas projects, but lately I tend to like it in a lot of color combinations. And so I die cut the shadow of the sentiment from white, and I in fact die cut that twice, so I have a little bit of dimension on that die cut, and I don't have to bother adding any foam tape or anything like that. So I use the same for both, well, two of the cards, and then for the third card, the black card, I die cut the shadow from black, which you can basically barely see, but it gives the sentiment a little bit of lift. So this is the white piece that, again, I'm just adding some foam tape to, and then I will glue it down in the middle of those stripes and then add the sentiment in the middle. Super simple, the whole thing, and that one really doesn't take any time. I think it would have looked nicer if I had just used that polka dot embossing folder and embossed the white panel for that card as well. But I don't know. I just can't go only white for some reason. Okay, so I'm gluing down the sentiments and then adding some red twine. You see, as much as I don't like red, I'm really using it on everything now. But I kind of needed a little bit of color at the top as well. And then I'll do this with the other cards too. And I don't even remember if I added enamel dot. I feel like I wanted to add enamel dots, but to the black one especially. But I felt like there is not enough happy colors like yellow or something. But I think I ended up not doing that. Somehow I didn't like it. I think because there is a lot of yellow dots already inside the design. But I'm not sure if that was the reason. So I am adding some dots to this one because it just felt so plain, that card. And then I kind of went overboard. As you can tell, there's enamel dots everywhere now. Okay, so that was it for these cards. I hope you like this die. I really do. I hope you give them a try, and I hope you don't get overwhelmed just because it looks very labor intensive. It doesn't take as long as it looks, I promise. Thank you very much for joining me, and I hope to see you next time. Bye bye.